See it there behind me, another Oval Office meeting in the books for President Donald Trump. He had a face-to-face meeting with the Philippine President. That just wrapped up. So we got a lot of headlines that came out of that sit-down. The topic on the table was supposed to be all about trade, but as you see from our use of this video here, the president went quickly while taking questions. He actually went quickly to the subject of former President Barack Obama, accusing him of rigging the 2016 election. Listen.
The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level.
So if this were heat on a stove, that heat just got turned up quite a bit. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now. Nancy, it's really also fascinating to know what came before President Trump pivoted to attacking former President Barack Obama. Take us into that room.
Well, he was there to meet with the president of the Philippines, Reed, because the president has imposed a deadline of August 1st on the Philippines and so many other nations to cut trade deals with the U.S. or face a major hike in tariffs. And so that's what the president of the Philippines came here to the White House to discuss. But as you saw in that video, and as is broadly representative of the 45 minutes or so that the press was in the room, there was very little talk of tariffs, and mostly the president wanted to talk about his predecessor, Barack Obama, and the fact that he believes that President Obama is guilty of treason. That is an extremely inflammatory claim. It is a major ratcheting up of the president's rhetoric on this issue. We know he has railed against the Russia investigations for years, but that's why he appointed in his first term a special counsel who had broad latitude to look into all of this during his first term. And that special counsel, John Durham, after about 3.5 years, did not find any evidence that the intelligence had been falsified in some systematic way or influenced by political concerns or directed by President Obama, as you heard President Trump say there, to go after Trump personally. And so the fact that President Trump has resurrected this claim and is now going even further and saying that the former president should be convicted of treason, that is a major escalation, Reed.
Nancy, that escalation is also striking to me because he launched into that right after being asked about the Epstein files and the Epstein controversy. Critics of President Trump would wonder if perhaps this is not a very large pivot right out of the Trump playbook.
Sure, because President Trump is well aware that his base does enjoy it when he goes after his foes, when he goes after those on the other side, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Democratic leaders of Congress or even former President Obama, who has been out of public office for about a decade now. And so you're not wrong to suggest that perhaps this is meant as a distraction from something that his base hasn't liked quite as much, which is the fact that at least up until this point, the FBI has not released more documents from the Epstein files, the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, who was a convicted child sex offender who had a relationship, some would say a friendship, with Donald Trump for many years, and some of the latest revelations that came out from the Wall Street Journal about a suggestive letter that the president sent to his friend Jeffrey Epstein back in 2003, allegedly. And so there are questions that have been raised about the fact that the president is suddenly now talking about former President Obama, that the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination files were suddenly released yesterday, thousands of pages of them, and that has led President Trump's critics to wonder if he isn't just trying to shift the focus away from Jeffrey Epstein to something that his base will enjoy quite a bit more.
Well, Nancy, we also heard the President of the United States suggest, I'm borrowing his words, that it's time to start going after some people. Of course, we know Adam Schiff, who nipped at the heels of Donald Trump for years, investigating him, also came up in this meeting.
Right. Right. And, you know, that is what has critics of this president so concerned, because typically there has been a pretty ironclad dividing line between the White House and the Department of Justice. Presidents tend to not want to appear to be influencing the Justice Department and its investigations in any way. President Trump not as concerned about that line, and we've seen multiple times that people who the president says he'd like to see investigated often tend to be investigated by the Department of Justice, by his Department of Justice. And so the fact that he continues to name names of people who he sees as wrongdoers, it is a cause for concern, and it's part of the reason that you saw former President Biden on his way out the door sign preemptive pardons, even for some individuals who said, I don't want this pardon. But there was a broad concern that President Trump would do exactly what he appears to be doing now, which is suggesting to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice who he thinks should be investigated or prosecuted.
And history takes note. Nancy Cortez, one of those who writes that history in real time, watching this all develop from the White House. Great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Also, during that Oval Office sit-down, more questions about the case involving convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. That, as the White House seems to be ramping up their fight against the Wall Street Journal after the paper published a story claiming Mr. Trump sent a quote-unquote body letter to Mr. Epstein to mark that 50th birthday. The White House now says a reporter for the outlet will be barred from accompanying the president on an upcoming trip to Scotland. So President Trump had a lot to say about that as well. Listen.
The Wall Street Journal's a lousy paper, very, very dishonest paper. As you see, I'm suing them for a lot of money because they do things very badly. It's got a nice name, but it's really, in my opinion, it's a terrible paper, and it can be corrupt.
So let's bring in CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman. Katrina, so that is the message from the president regarding the Wall Street Journal, but I want to bring up a statement from the White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. She says, quote, as the appeals court confirmed, the Wall Street Journal or any other news outlet are not guaranteed special access to cover President Trump in the Oval Office, close quote. So my big question is, does the Journal really have any legal room to fight this? Can they decide who comes in and who does not come into the people's house?
Reed, so that appeals court did say that President Trump has a right to decide who comes into these private spaces like the Oval Office, Air Force One, but the Wall Street Journal can absolutely still make a First Amendment argument here. You are not supposed to discriminate based on content or viewpoint. They can argue that this is a retaliatory action against them for publishing this article that President Trump has been displeased with. They can also argue, Reed, that this will have a chilling effect on the press and that this information is in the public interest. It is about the President of the United States.
So the story just keeps going and keeps developing, whether the president likes it or not. Just this morning, we know that the second highest ranking official at the Department of Justice says his team is reaching out to former Trump, I guess, somebody Trump associated with, Ghislaine Maxwell, Maxwell, and then they also plan to meet with her soon. The president was asked about that by our very own CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Let's listen to that.
Do you support the Justice Department seeking a new interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, and did you urge the Attorney General to seek one?
I don't know anything about it. They're going to what? Meet her?
Your Deputy Attorney General is reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney asking for a new interview.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
Do you have any concern that your Deputy Attorney General, who's your former attorney, would be conducting the interview, given your past relationship?
He's a very talented person. He's very smart. I didn't know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt.
So my question to you is, as somebody with some legal expertise, how long of a process could that take, and what information is the department looking to get out of Maxwell?
I mean, Reed, there are a number of factors here. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has said that he anticipates he could speak with Ghislaine Maxwell in as soon as the coming days. He says that he wants to talk to her to see if she has information on anyone related to these victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And her attorney has said, too, that they are in talks with the government, that she will testify truthfully, and they said that they are grateful to President Trump for his commitment to uncovering the truth in this case. But there's also this effort, Reed, to uncover the grand jury transcripts related to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. A judge who's overseeing that ordered today that he needs more information from the government here, because there is such a high bar for the secrecy of the grand jury proceedings, Reed. And so there are certain exceptions and certain factors that are supposed to be taken into account in weighing if these can actually be unsealed. So he has asked for the government to file an additional memorandum with more of an explanation, as well as the full grand jury transcripts themselves, proposed redacted version. In addition, he wants a submission from Ghislaine Maxwell and letters from any of the victims who may have been mentioned in those grand jury transcripts and how they feel about this potential disclosure. Maxwell also has her appeal to the Supreme Court. And in addition, Reed, the House Oversight Committee today also voted to subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell. So many elements here to the Ghislaine Maxwell issue.
Katrina Kaufman, CBS News legal reporter, thank you so much.